This is how your aura works. Well, it explains it at least. This is a spectroscope. I'm going to let them talk about it, and then I'm going to come on back in and explain some stuff to you about how you could alchemize and refine your aura to match and show and give you whatever it is you desire. Stay tuned.
Kirchhoff was reminded of how a prism spreads light into a rainbow of colors. So, using a prism and the pieces of a small telescope, Bunsen and Kirchhoff built the first spectroscope, an analytical device they hoped would help them see the spectra coming from heated substances. And it worked. As an element was put into the flame of a Bunsen burner, the light from the heated substance passed through the prism of the spectroscope, where it then spread into a ribbon-like spectrum of colors, riddled with dark lines. The combinations of bright colors and dark lines were like barcodes indicating what atoms were present. When burned, each element produced a completely unique spectrum.
With that being said, they're letting us know that our atoms, which we are made up of, correct? We have atoms. Atoms coagulate into molecules. Molecules coagulate into amino acids. Amino acids then coagulate and combine into proteins. Proteins into cells. Cells into tissues. Tissues into organs. Organs into a full human complex. So with that being said again, the very beginning with the atoms, in the beginning, atoms, we can change the atoms within us. Each atom having a different spectra or giving off a different frequency or barcode. And we are made up of these atoms. So each person has a different spectra and barcode, and we are emitting a different frequency in light. Because let's talk about how light, our light chosen ones, and everybody and everything is giving off a light, and that's how we can perceive it. So, in order for light to be created, an electron must go to the next energy level. An electron of the atom, the feminine portion, goes to the next energy level in excitement. Then when it returns back to the energy level that it was previously on, that energy is still emitted that was on that higher level. So that's about raising your frequency. That energy that is emitted, that's what becomes the light. That's what we see and that's what we perceive. So that is how our aura is created. Now, how do we control our aura? Other than by thinking, how do we consciously control our aura, element by element? We're going to have to get into some biochemistry for that. Alright, Black Lion, this is specifically for you now. You've been asking about alchemy, right? I got you. I said I had you. Life been lifing, but I am back. So, alchemy, it's about turning lead into gold. That's outer alchemy. That's what they want you to think it was about. That's alchemy outside of yourself. Let's talk about inner alchemy. How we turn base metals into gold all the time through not through chemical reactions, but through nuclear reactions. They don't talk about too many nuclear reactions throughout the body, but these chemical reactions play a huge role as well. So, what I like to think of alchemy, inner alchemy, pretty much is just self-refinement. Meaning, alchemy or self-refinement is just this code of instructions that you use for maneuvering from your lower self to your higher self, with your heart being the bridge, because that heart chakra is the middle chakra. And then you got 3 chakras above, 3 chakras below. So it's about merging and blending so that you can become one, mixing the red with the blue, not choosing red pill or blue pill, but combining so you can become that royal crown purple chakra. And this is done all day long in our body. If you research things about the hepatic portal, That's the only place in the body where the red and the blue come together and mix, and there's a little purple going on. They don't talk about that too much though. Is taking one energy and frequency, and with that input or investment, you're gonna do the proper steps to come out with the payoff. Now, if we look inside our bodies, inside of our cells, this is happening all the time, especially when and after we eat, through the mitochondria, through this thing called the citric acid cycle, the TCA cycle, or some people call it the Krebs cycle. But basically, this is alchemy all day long with inside the body, because there's 7 steps to alchemy. There's calcination, which is reducing to ashes; dissolution, dissolving to liquid; separation, separating opposite components; conjunction, combining opposite components; fermentation, putrefaction and spiritualization; distillation, further purification through heat; and coagulation, conversion of solid to a liquid. So those are the 7 steps of alchemy. These birds have been playing for like the last hour. What is that? Okay. Step 1, calcination, reducing to ashes. That's the burning of the metabolism, which is done in the mitochondria through, which I was just mentioning, the TCA or the Krebs cycle. Now, the TCA is the citric acid cycle. Citric acid, that's telling you right there what you need to jumpstart this off. The citric acid cycle. Or in simplest terms, I can say the TCA cycle is about taking conglomerates of elements from the periodic table in different arrays, breaking them down or burning them to come out with different arrangements of these elements. So, for example, it will take oxygen, go through all these steps of the Krebs cycle, and spit out hydrogens and, water, H2O, and NADH plus, spits out carbon dioxide. So that just goes to show, within our body, we alchemize. We take one element, run it through a series of events, and then create other elements or conglomerates of these elements. We're the original lab. That's why, or they would test things by rubbing it on their skin and see how their skin reacts, because that's connected through the nervous system. So we are the labs, walk-in laboratories, creating day in and day out. Not to mention our thoughts adding to that, our environments adding to that. Y'all need to look into this. Now, calcination is burning or reducing to ashes. That's out with the old, in with the new, because we gotta burn down out of, this is where they get the phoenix rises out of the ashes. Because through calcination, you burn what was put in so you can grow something new. In the TCA cycle, this will be the first step. Oh, wait, actually, this is before the TCA cycle. Forgive me. This is all part of cellular respiration. Cellular respiration is how you get the spirit into your cells. Respiration. That spire, that's the spirit. As we breathe, inspire, inspiration, that's the spirit within. Breathe in inspiration. So cellular respiration is how you keep your body rejuvenated and revitalized so that your mitochondria can breathe. Not just you as a whole can breathe, but you have to breathe on a cellular level. So that before the TCA cycle begins, there's this process called glycolysis. And in glycolysis, that's pretty much taking glucose and breaking it down to 2 pyruvates. They talk about fire right there, pyruvates. You can look this stuff up. I'm gonna include the notes on the screen so you can follow along. 2 pyruvates. So that's burning. That's starting to burn right there. But so 2 pyruvates. That's the first step. The glycolysis of cellular respiration. Because you're beginning to burn and break down that glucose into 2 pyruvates. And then you're going to yield some ATP. You're going to use ATP, which is your energy production. ATP is currency. That's why they got us working. Using our energy, we're building ATP, using energy to work, even if we just typing or answering the phone, using our energy and ATP in trade for some fiat and fake money. But that ain't what this video is about. Your ATP is your real investment, because in the investment phase of ATP, because there's an investment and a payoff phase, you take a certain amount of ATP to get even more ATP out. So you're going to take 2 ATP. So you can get 4 ATP. So we're burning, breaking down so that we can build up. Within that is step 2, dissolution or dissolve to liquid. Then we have the separation. That's electrolyzing. That's electrolysis. The negative separating from the positive. You got to separate, sort out, so you can see what you got going on, see what you're working with, all the different compartments and components. And then at that point, you're at conjunction, where you're going to combine the lower 3 with the higher 3. Because basically, calcination, dissolution, and separation are all the physical aspects. And then when you go into conjunction or the heart chakra, you go into the higher realm when you start talking about fermentation. That's why you need fermented fruit and things like kimchi. This is all going back to certain biochemical processes that are going on within the body. Some of us can't manifest and feel happy and all these other things that we want because the biochemistry in our aura is off. Depression is the biochemistry in your aura being off. And the 7 steps of alchemy, is how you get it back on. We talking about genes, turning genes off and on. So you got the fermentation, and I'm not going to talk about them all too much into detail, but I want to point out distillation, because that's further purification through heat. This is where distilling spirits come from. Alcohol, yeah, wine and tequila and all of that, they go through a distillation process through all of these different compartments and components. They got to separate and do this and boil and all of that, and these different types of labware. And then they call them spirits, right? Like I said, this is cellular respiration, the spirits. This is the first distillation of a spirit here. This is where you first get your spirit worked up. In your mitochondria. This is true alchemy, inner alchemy, how you alchemize your life. And after distillation, once you got those spirits pure, my bad, y'all. After distillation, there's coagulation, which is conversion of liquid to solid. So that means it's going pretty much like making an ice cube. It's going from liquid in that freezer stage, becoming dense and solidified, so that you something whole. And this is basically how we manifested ourselves, through the mitochondria. I'll be here all day talking about alchemy and mitochondria and the citric acid cycle. So the takeaways are self-refinement, which goes back to shadow work as well. That's another way that you can get your aura together, the spiritual way, shadow work, and then through what you're putting in your body, because it's metabolizing and burning. Every time we eat, we're doing alchemy. And that's why we feel a ways after we eat, whether that be good or bad, whether we got energy or we want to go lie down. It's 444. And I'm just going to leave it at that. I'm probably going to make some more in the future. But I hope that answered a few questions for you. Black Lion, gratitude and healing.